when I look at the evolution of martial arts, there's not been a lot of evolution up till recently. I would say within the last 50 years, you've seen a lot of change.
He goes in there, he knocks a guy out, wins the belt, and I'm like,
Right.
my guy just won the belt.
And then people started talking about karate again.
Exactly. Karate became, wait a minute, it's not, and like you remember, I love jiu-jitsu, love it. But at that moment, it was like, we're back. Being able to move in base from one position to the other. So you're never you're always at a place where you have an invisible connection to the earth in such a way that you can't be pushed or pulled, no matter what position you're in. When you can find that, you've really got a superpower that's hard to explain.
Of course, if everyone knows, Caleb Skinner, my cousin. We've known each other since there was anybody to know.
Yeah, making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches together.
Yep.
A long time ago.
Sure. And we both kind of had a little track that we went off on into martial arts um, throughout the years, and we had our own way of doing it. And when I say that, I mean we train martial arts. It's just you had basically just different instructors and things like that.
Sure.
I just didn't want people thinking that we were together. Not that I would have minded that. I would have loved that, but just people understand what's going on.
Yeah. So I think that highlights something about martial arts in general that a lot of people miss. And I think it's where the separation or the divide comes from that you see in a lot of schools, and you'll have this sometimes, and you'll see these schools pit against other schools and things, and a lot of times it boils down to the difference between competition martial arts versus traditional or self-defense martial arts. And it really is a big difference between the two. It's difference in the way you go about it. I mean, let's just go back to basketball. If you like to shoot hoops in your backyard with your buddies, and you're not in any 3-on-3 competitions or anything like that, it's a different game
Sure.
than whenever you're playing for a trophy or some money or that sort of thing. And so folks who train for competitive martial arts, karate tournaments, jiu-jitsu tournaments, MMA, there's lots of opportunities for those. And it takes a certain skill set for one. It takes a certain drive and passion, to do that. But it doesn't necessarily always translate to the self-defense side of things, right? Just
Right.
looking out for yourself. And by looking out for yourself, I mean not only being able to protect yourself physically, but being able to protect yourself from you,
Right.
and all those things. And
Absolutely.
so then that's a big part of traditional martial arts. And so then you have the other guy that is training traditionally, and he's looking at, the mindsets that you train with, and, the style that you train in, and trying to develop your body in such a way that it responds properly and that sort of thing. But it's not aimed at winning a trophy,
Yeah.
and I think the biggest problem is that traditional school will talk bad about or will complain about that competition school.
Mhm.
And then that competition school will talk bad about, or like they don't understand the traditional school.
Right.
And the reality is everybody's doing their best at the thing that they love to do, and they're all okay. There's nothing wrong with any of those paths.
Right.
It's which path do you want to do, and that's okay. And you can do more than one path, and that's okay too. So anyway, it kind of highlights, I mean, I always came up in traditional
Mhm.
self-defense martial arts. You and I trained together for a little while there,
Sure. Just
and
off and on.
and
Yeah.
I played with a little bit of competition stuff and really loved it.
Sure.
Really loved it. And I competed in tournaments for honestly most of my life. As I've gotten close to 50, you know,
Yeah.
that was a good friend. He was a great friend, but he just isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
He went about his life, and now this guy exists, and I really enjoy getting together with my students and training and having fun and learning about each other and learning about yourself even deeper,
Yeah.
and seeing what you can do with yourself, and just developing. It's always it's Kaizen, the principle of Kaizen. It's a continual improvement. Better tomorrow than I am today.
Yeah.
And so you go from trying to be that guy that just is tough and wants to win to getting a really big dose of humility whenever, especially when that 5-0 starts hitting around
Mhm.
pretty
Sure
close.
does,
Like
man.
it's like, wow, man, what happened to me? I used to be able to do all these things, and it's not as easy as it used to be,
Yeah,
but you can still enjoy it,
absolutely.
still have a great time. So
So here's where the problem is. You just as you were talking, you had about 5 or 6 things I wanted to jump in on and talk
sure,
about.
okay,
And the
let's do
problem
it.
well,
Dissect it.
the problem we're on a little bit of a time constraint, so I'm gonna try to keep us on point because I too tend to travel off point quite a bit. But one of the things you were talking about is the difference between, and this is something I think a lot of people may need to know. I've had in everybody from like poker dealers and therapists, but say I had a poker dealer in, and they're talking about phrases like on tilt or the button or straddle or all these terminology, and I'd have to stop and say, hey, wait, there's a lot of people that might be we're
Yeah,
going to watch this and they don't understand. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people who didn't basically grow up in martial arts and kind of see it don't realize is that there are two differences there,
mhm,
and what that means. Um, traditional martial arts back before UFC and all that hit, most martial arts were this. If you were a karate, then karate was the best, and don't come in
yeah,
here with that taekwondo and
yeah,
taekwondo, and all these groups would do that, and then I think that the UFC kind of helped. It didn't really help, but it did shine a light a little bit on that there are some things that are lacking
mhm,
in that, and using that as a guide, we have to understand that when you're in a cage fighting one individual, unarmed, completely, nearly, nothing to hide, with one goal, is quite a bit of difference between walking with your family down
yeah,
the street in St. Louis in the middle of the night, coming back from a show. There's
yeah,
a big difference in that, how that other person comes at you. Are there more than one? Are there weapons? Even stuff that people may miss would be like if there is a man in front of you with a gun, in my opinion, and I want to get your opinion too. And what I taught my students was if there's a man in front of you with a gun, you do exactly what he asks you to do
exactly.
as
Yeah,
best you
that's
can.
right.
If you think you have an opportunity, don't take it. The only time you take that opportunity is when you feel like you're in danger and people around you are in
Yeah,
danger. If you can de-escalate that, money comes, so you can get more money tomorrow.
yeah,
A watch or whatever.
yeah,
But that mindset of the MMA is, and that's one of the reasons I kind of got out of it. Is it's a killer instinct that you just got to go. It's just a
mhm,
go, and sometimes that works out for you, but
mhm,
sometimes not.
yeah,
And then what I was saying about the differences that actually UFC showed us that each art has great qualities and some things that don't necessarily apply. Um, yeah, when you got the guy down, you taking him down, and you're getting ready to apply near a rear choke or an armbar, and his other buddy is kicking you in the kidneys.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah, there's a big difference between the
big
two of them,
difference.
and going into, I would say a very high level, professional mixed martial artist is going to be pretty safe,
Mhm,
but it takes a long time to get to that point,
yeah,
and you're missing. Whereas in traditional martial arts, you're going to be keying in on some of those things that
mhm,
where to strike one time, things like that without the having the conditioning necessarily that they're going through.
yeah,
So
yeah. I would say it came full circle for me. I think I actually tell this story a lot to my students. Because okay, let me a little background. So I came up in Shotokan traditional karate. Okay, so Japanese karate, all the pomp and circumstance, standing in a straight line, standing at attention, perfect stances, perfect form. Really working on that. Point sparring. So that's when you get hit, the fight stops. And
sure,
which in itself can be a little dangerous, right? As far as the self
right,
defense side of things go.
to some degree, but there again, we're looking at even in point sparring. I mean, it's what I've always said was good target practice
It's good target practice.
because you got to find
Yeah.
that one specific area and hit
Yeah,
it.
and
Yeah,
if you can do it well, it will work in self-defense as well,
yeah,
right? And so,
right, absolutely.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
right targets.
yeah. It's that bop on the top of the head that gets a point sometimes that
Yeah,
really wouldn't stop somebody that's really
right.
trying to track you. So the first time that it came real full circle for me was I was in your gym actually several years ago. Quite well, when was that? 20 years ago?
It's been, yeah.
It's been a long time ago.
Let's not talk about yours. Yeah,
Yeah, a long time ago. I was there and I was doing my typical, what I did that I feel really confident in. And I can remember a young man that shot on me, and I've never had anybody shoot from my legs before.
Right.
And he shot from my legs and got them very easily because I didn't know how to defend them, and got me on my back pretty quickly. And then I struggled
Yeah.
to grapple. I didn't really know what I was doing. And so thank goodness I had that experience, because it's that experience right there that got me searching and looking. And so at that moment, then I went and actually started training in jujitsu as well. I trained with some jujitsu
Yeah.
with you for quite a while. And then I went over to Three Rivers and started training with Jason over there, Jason Hawkins over there, and really fell in love with it just as much as I ever did karate and such. And so my background's in Shotokan Karate. I've got a seventh degree black belt in Shotokan Karate, and you know how that works. I mean, once you get over, like your third dan or third
Yeah.
degree, it's
It's
like
more what you apply,
it's
give
it's
back
it's
to
it's
the
your
art.
ability to teach after
Yeah.
that more than it is your physical
Right.
ability. But then so I started taking jujitsu. I'm a two stripe brown belt now in jujitsu, which I've almost done as long as I have some other martial arts.
Yeah.
It takes a long time,
Jiu-jitsu does have a
It
long
takes a long
process.
time. But it was okay. So then I found this love of doing the two, and I'm like, man, is it a which one, or is it a both, type
Mhm.
thing. And what I got to experience was getting connected with the Machida family, and I'm
Right.
sure you'd like to talk some about that,
Yeah, that's
because I'm,
pretty.
I'm very connected to that family now, and what the style of martial arts that they teach is both, and so
Mhm.
it's got equal elements of everything in it, and so it's a true mixed martial art, and it really helped bring that out. But it is a self defense art, and that's the way that it's taught. And so, getting back to our original the way we came into this conversation. Um, I started realizing that I had spent a whole lot of time focusing on how to score points on people, but not a lot of time of being aware, just being aware, just realizing. I was in a class with Hoist Gracie one time. It was a seminar here in Paducah. And I'll never forget, he kept getting on to me over and over about not keeping my hands up. This is a jujitsu guy talking about keeping my hands up. It's
Yeah.
because he was talking about me not getting punched in the face and me being able to grapple,
Right. Yeah.
being awake long enough to grapple,
Sure.
right? And I can never forget that. And so, anyway, just learning the difference between the two has been eye opening for me and developmental for me, to the point that I don't focus a lot much anymore on competition. I
Mhm.
do some. I mean, I've got some students that enjoy doing it, and I try to develop them in that direction if that's their goal, if that's what they want to do. But more often than not, my students are more interested in learning about what it is that makes them better, um, building themselves physically, becoming stronger. Um, that beautiful thing that happens whenever you are stuck under somebody, grappling with them, and you can't get out,
Um,
and there's nothing you can. I mean, you're just really struggling, and you're panicking inside, but you're there and there's nothing you can do about
Yeah.
it. And it's that there's a lesson in that, and there's
And
a lesson in what do I do in other circumstances daily in life whenever I'm stuck and I can't get out? How do I respond then?
mhm,
And
that's a good point.
it's in those moments, that,
Yeah.
that on the mat is where those lessons are learned, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I've learned, and I think my students have learned more about themselves in those moments than they have in so many others in just daily life.
Yeah.
So.
So when I look at the evolution of martial arts, there's not been a lot of evolution up till recent.
Hmm.
I'd say within the last 50 years, you've seen a lot of change. So then, watching the old kung fu movies and Chuck Norris and Bob
Hmm.
Wall and all those guys. I truly believe that as far as publicly seen, Bruce Lee was probably one of the first mixed martial artists. He was
Yeah,
mixing a lot of different
for
systems
sure.
together. Um, and then after that, no one really took hold of that. I don't know if they didn't really note. Maybe they just didn't notice that there was multiple things going on there before he died. And we didn't see that again. And we didn't see anything happen until Hoist Gracie
Mhm.
in the first, what was it, 2 and 3 he was in? Or
He
maybe
was
it
a
was
he
in 1, 2,
one,
3.
2, and I think
Yeah.
3 he got hurt, and 4 I think is when he won
Yeah.
again. So
I
yeah.
knew when he got Ken Shamrock,
Mhm.
that was a big,
Yeah.
big deal. And then you started seeing him do people like Dan. Was it Dan Severin? He
Mhm.
got and he was in a triangle, and everybody was thinking Dan was winning because he
Yeah,
was on top
he's on
of him.
top, so he's winning. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Who's about?" And then next thing you know, here's Dan tapping out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then people sort of wake up. And I say this a lot when I talk to fighters and trainers that the jiu-jitsu world kind of took over then. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, look at
Gotta
what
learn
this
this.
little dude is doing. I got to learn this." But then you started another evolution. You've seen
Mhm.
Ito and Chick Liddell. They're like, I don't necessarily want to learn all that, but
Mhm.
I know I don't need to be down there. So they were learning how to
Yeah.
either ground and pound or stand back up.
Yeah.
And I saw at that time the jujitsu world, they didn't learn the lesson they taught everyone.
Mhm.
They kind of still held true. They're like,
Mhm.
and it took them a while to start cross training some jujitsu. It seemed
Mhm.
like, um, and then here we go again in this. I think Machida. The reason I drug that story in is to
Yeah.
get to Machida. I think
Yeah.
that was one of the next movements
Yeah.
was when he did that front kick,
Yeah.
and they're like, "That's a front kick," and that, they started explaining the front kick, and I'm like, "Yeah, every karate school in America and
Yeah.
everywhere else for the last
Yeah.
100 years, that's one of their
Yeah. It's one of
and
the
there
staple moves.
again we go back to finding that target,
Mhm.
and a one shot is what it
Mhm.
took
Mhm.
to eliminate that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think we're seeing, some people kind of go back to that. There's no limit,
Mhm.
but how you can incorporate all this, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the Machida style, and I'd love to. I'll talk about it here in a moment about
Hmm.
how I got to meet those folks and how I've become part of the family and everything. But one of the things that they have really keyed in on, the system is very, it's very interesting. It's very integral. So when you train in Machida Karate, you learn a lot about movement, a lot about setting up that technique, setting up that 1, 2, 3 movement technique that you're going to need to do to get your knockout right. And it's very, you know, in out, in out, in out. So you're in that green zone, where you're safe, and then you're in that red zone for just a moment. Bam, 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 and then you're back in that green zone, and it's all about keeping. If you remember, when Lyoto hit the scene, the comments that they were making was, he's so unorthodox. I can't keep up with him. He's here and then he's there, and there's all of this stuff. Well, that's the system. That's what they teach you, is how to be that unpredictable,
Right.
And so it's very beautiful the way that you go about it. But yeah, setting up that front kick, and that, in
Yeah,
fact, if you get a chance to look up the logo of Machida Karate,
I've seen it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So you see what's on there.
yeah.
That's an image. Actually, that's an image of his dad. I don't know
Oh,
if you
really?
realize it or not. Yeah,
Yeah,
the image is actually Lyoto and Shinzo's dad, Yoshizo Machida. We call him Master Machida, and he is doing front kick there, and it's one of the staple
it's a
moves.
beautiful
So yeah.
move. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've seen some memes recently. We get tied up in that, um, and it was referring to it was a match, and it actually ended up being I can't remember who it was, a younger guy, and it shows talking about beauty, and he's talking about his wife and how beautiful his wife is, but in the background they're playing this movement that this guy was setting this technique up with, and it was just a couple of shots, and then a shift to the side. There was a miss. He comes back, and then he comes up with a knee. Beautiful knee, just
Hmm.
everything. It's like it was all planned. It was so perfect,
Hmm.
and that's something that I don't know that a lot of people who aren't in the art. I think some people are able to, but to see that movement and know what is involved to make that happen,
Yeah.
and then to understand he's not thinking.
Exactly.
He's not thinking,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to move over. If he kicks, no, his mind has been trained and went through these, drilled into
Yeah.
them so much
Yeah.
that most any situation, he's going to have an unconscious thought of how to do that. Is
Exactly.
that, I mean, and that's
That's right
something I
on.
don't,
You're right on the money.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I try to tell people. And I think Bruce Lee had said, it's the mind guiding the body without
Yeah.
thought. You don't have to, I said, there's a fly on your nose. You don't have to lift right hand, squat nose.
Right.
But if someone attacks you, if you don't train,
Yeah.
you're going to react.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but
You're
that,
gonna do whatever you've practiced.
yeah,
And if you haven't practiced, that's what you're gonna
going to
do.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, repetition, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Over and over. So yeah. Talking about the state of mind, you're talking about Leoto's experience there and the
Mhm.
way he moves. So Shinzo, it's the same way. I like to talk about some of the other guys that are there training in the academy right now that are winning belts, and they haven't made it to the UFC light heavyweight championship yet, but they're out there winning. And I'll tell you some of those names in a little bit to keep an eye on because they're really doing
Yeah,
well. But so in Machida Karate, we teach, and this is Japanese karate. Okay, you got to remember, Machida Karate came from Shotokan.
that's what I was going to
Yeah,
ask. I thought it was a
yeah,
form. It started with
yeah.
Shotokan.
So Lyoto and Shinzo's dad, Yoshizo Machida, he's an eighth dan in traditional Shotokan karate, and he is the chief instructor of the JKA in Brazil. So the JKA being the Japanese Karate Association. So that's kind of the organization that developed between Gichin Funakoshi, who was the founder of Shotokan, about the time he passed away, 1956 time frame. So the JKA sprung up. Nakayama was the first chief instructor of that. Okay, so then from there, karate kind of spread all over the world, and the JKA schools, they're literally everywhere. You go any country in the world, you're going to find a JKA karate schools somewhere. So in 1968, Lyoto's dad traveled from Brazil from Japan to Brazil. You got to remember, he trained under all of those guys. If you say one of the big names, if you get on Google and you look up, original Shotokan karate, people, he trained with all those folks. That's where his karate came from. He took that to Brazil, and now in Brazil runs the largest martial arts school in Brazil. You talk about jiu-jitsu schools in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and different cities. Belém, Brazil, is where they're at, and I think the last time I heard a number, and you can quote me on this, but it might be wrong. Okay, so you can look it up. I think the Machida Academy in Belém, I think it's got like 3,000 students, something
Wow.
like that. It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's huge. And so people hear Machida Karate in the US and it links immediately to Lyoto, not in Brazil. I mean, yeah, he's popular, he's famous, but his dad is very famous there. And there's some books about jujitsu even that talks about him. There's a book out there called Opening the Closed Guard. I don't know if you've seen this one or not. Talks about the history of the Gracie family. What was interesting is who the Gracies learned from. Yeah, they called him Count Coma. He's buried there in Brazil, and I think that book, if I remember right, that book talks about Yoshizo Machida going to clean his grave up and make it presentable and that sort of thing. Because he was a fellow martial artist, and when you're a martial artist, respect and courtesy, those are essential to who you are. So anyway, that's just to give you a little history of kind of how that started. Well, then he he had a dojo downstairs. He lived upstairs, and so did Shinzo and Taki and Lyoto, the whole family. They all lived there. 5:30 every morning. Their expectation was to be downstairs in the dojo training, and that was daily before they went to school, before they did anything else. So those kids grew up, really, really engulfed in that Shotokan
Right.
philosophy. Well, so they started looking at, you could find a lot of this information out there, but Lyoto started getting interested in fighting, like mixed martial arts, Vale Tudo type fights in Brazil and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So he had to learn. So he ended up learning, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, and just how to fight. Okay, so come.
Now, who was that? Which one was that? Because the name kind of run together for me.
So
Who decided that they needed to start learning?
Lyoto, he was really
And
looking.
Lyoto is
Yeah, Lyoto Machida. Of course, he was the light heavyweight champion.
okay,
Yeah,
and his how did I
Vale
what I was
Tudo fights.
what I was going to say there was how was that taken? Or do you even know how the rest of his family was with
The
that?
story that he has told us several times is that I think most of the family was okay with it except his mother. His mother was just like, "You're not going to go in there," because those Valley Tudo fights,
Okay, so she was more concerned about his
his
health.
health.
Yeah,
Yeah, just like because they're brutal.
yeah.
They're just they're the old fashioned way that you used to do
Oh,
UFC fights. Yeah,
yeah, very little rules.
yeah, very little rules.
Well, I was just wondering, with his family, with having their system, how they took that, if him wanting to cross train some, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess they just understood fighting enough to
yeah.
know
No, he needed
that
that. Yeah.
if he was gonna do something different, he
Sure,
needed that.
sure, sure. So Shinzo, he's my personal instructor. He's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
Hmm.
They've all trained in multiple martial arts. The family reminds me a lot of the way of Bruce Lee's philosophy is uh, find what is useful and use that.
Yeah.
That sort of so it is really a reflection of that thought that Bruce Lee had, in my opinion, as I've thought about that. I've never had that conversation with Shinzo, but I believe that that's very much
Yeah.
the thought behind it. Um, so that brings us, to modern day, and if you want a martial art to spread across the world, it needs to be in Los Angeles, California. I mean, it's pretty much how it works. I mean, the Gracies did that.
Yeah.
They moved from Brazil to Torrance, California, which is, if you're familiar with Los Angeles, it's in the South Bay, just south of downtown, and started their original academy there. The So now the Gracie University that's there in Torrance, don't know exactly, 2.5 miles, I would guess, over to the Machida Academy. They're right there close to each other. And so Shinzo is actually him and Lyoto started that academy there in Los Angeles. I believe that was in the it was in the 2014, 15, 16 time frame. It was in that time. They trained it first at Black House. If you're familiar with Black House in Los Angeles, that was kind of the gym to go to. A lot of big names was training in there, and that's where they were teaching for a time. And then they got a new location over there in Lomita, down there close to Torrance, and opened up a new academy there. And now that's the headquarters of Machida Karate now. As far as the style that Shinzo teaches is we that's deemed Machida Karate. You got to remember Yoshisho Machida, Master Machida. He's still teaching Shotokan in Brazil,
Yeah.
so that's what he's doing.
So, and then you were, I can't remember when you started. It was with this school there in Draftsville,
Yeah,
Karate Elite
Karate
with
Elite.
Chuck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I started at Karate Elite in Draftonville, Chuck and Marilyn Newton.
Newton.
I started there. That would have been 1990. 1990.
Okay.
That's
And
about when I
then you
started.
got your black belt Chuck's on through Chuck,
I
correct?
did. Yeah.
So when you decided to take a look at Machida, and I don't know the whole story there, what really brought you to that, but once you started training there, how much of this is the, oh, better way to say this, the Machida system? Is it a complete system of Shotokan with add-ons, or are there some things that were left out, or do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. That's a great question. So let me go back to answer your question about kind of how I got attracted to it at
Mhm.
first. So let's go. We were talking a little bit ago about I was in jujitsu. I'm in Shotokan. I'm like, which one? I
Yeah.
love both of them. I don't understand. Well, the thing that it came to me was I don't understand. Okay, so if you look, here's what happened. I would go to jujitsu class, and we would be working a technique, and I would see the technique, and it would be like so familiar, yet I had never done it before. But then I would go back and I would be in Shotokan class and I would be doing kata, and it would hit me. I just did that thing I did in jujitsu class the other day.
Oh,
And I was like, well, but in line drills and in point sparring, we never did any of those things, but we did them in kata. And so I was like, okay, wait a minute. And then I read this thing. This is an older guy that said martial arts is like a mountain. If you're at the base of the mountain and you go around the base of that mountain, it looks different no matter where you walk. You look all the way around there, it looks different. But as you climb that same mountain, as you get to the top, everything starts looking really, really similar,
yeah.
and it's all
Right.
the same. So, and I'm like, okay, what if all of this, and it did, it came from the same place, and then people place their opinions on the importance of different things, right? As you go through time. And so I'm realizing that maybe several hundred years ago, when they were teaching this kata to try to remember the techniques that they had been practicing in their
Mhm.
with their teacher, maybe that technique was a jujitsu technique. It's part of a karate system now,
Yeah.
or whatever. So I started really thinking about that a lot. And I thought, I don't really understand why I have to be necessarily tied to a certain system. What if I teach my students how to be efficient in all the areas? What if I teach them, and I wasn't really looking to start a new style
Mhm.
per se and like name it and say this is what this is going to be called, and we're going to blend all the good things. Like we're going to take it like Jeet Kune Do, right?
Yeah.
I mean
Exactly what
that's
you
what it
want to
was,
do.
right? I kind of wanted to do something like that and just take the best things I had been shown and the best things I had learned and organize them in such a way that a student could learn them, get proficient at them. We could rank them in a certain way and that they could earn themselves to a black belt. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's
Right.
make this. So, okay, fast forward. I'm sitting at home one day and I'm on Instagram and I'm just surfing and I'd already, followed the Machida Karate Academy in LA because I was a big fan of Lyoto's. I didn't say that earlier, but oh my goodness,
Yeah,
man. I
he's
mean,
easy to be a fan of.
hey man, when he come on
Yeah,
the scene, he was a Shotokan guy. That's what they said. He was Shotokan Karate, and so I
right.
was Shotokan Karate. I didn't care
Got your
who.
attention.
Oh man, I didn't care who he was fighting. That's
You
who I was rooting for.
sure.
And then what does he do? He goes in there, he knocks a guy out, wins the belt. And I'm like,
Right.
my guy just won the belt.
And then people started talking about karate again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Karate became, wait a minute, it's not, and like you remember, I am, I love jujitsu,
Mhm.
love it. But at that moment, it was like, we're back.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right,
mean? It's like
right.
we're back. People know that karate's not a joke.
Yeah.
It's actually real. And I think that's one of the biggest things that just frustrates me. I don't like it when anybody calls anything a joke because something made it legitimate at some point.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just depends on what it turns into. But so I saw this video. I have been watching videos of them, and I was like, "Wow, this is very interesting the way they teach karate because they don't teach it in fixed positions. They don't teach it in long stances. I'm
Yeah.
watching, and they're doing real self defense. They're doing takedowns. And people are grappling. And I'm like, what's going on here? Of course, I knew Lyoto did that in the cage, but this is obviously a dojo when I'm seeing this
Sure.
on the screen. And I'm watching and I'm so intrigued. And then one day they put out an ad, and this ad, by the way, is out right now. They're recruiting right now as we speak. But there was an ad said, "Are you a traditional Japanese black belt?" Not being Japanese ethnically, but meaning
Sure.
do you hold a black belt in a Japanese martial art? We would like for you to come out and train with us. So I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Right.
And it said there's only certain spots available, whatever. So I contacted them. I thought, honestly, I was like, what's the
Long
chances of
shot. Yeah.
this? This
Yeah.
is a long shot. And so I fill out the application. I had to send in a copy of my black belt certificate, some other credentialing to prove I was who I said I was. I had to shoot a video of me teaching a class, of me taking a class. They wanted to see me doing certain techniques to know, they're weeding things out to make sure that
Yeah.
you are who you say you are. And so I go in and I send all this stuff, and then it's like 4 or 5 weeks, haven't heard anything, and I was like, well, that went exactly like I thought it was going to go,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I honestly kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then I got an email that said you've been accepted into the instructor's course of Machida Karate. The dates are this, and this is Los Angeles, California. Here's the fee, to pay for the instruction for the week, and we'll see you there. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm getting to go out there. So the skeptic in me immediately was like,
They're gonna try to sell you on something.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. This, what is this exactly? And also, I'm gonna get there and there's gonna be like 300 other
Yeah.
people there. You know what I mean?
It's gonna look like
Yeah.
Enter the Dragon where they got all.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally expecting this. I've never
Yeah.
been to their academy. I didn't know
Right.
how big it was. So I'm just thinking we're gonna be in a gymnasium. I'm gonna be this guy from Kentucky over in the back corner.
But hey, I'll get a cool patch out of it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, or I get to have my picture made with Lyoto
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Shinzo.
Right.
That was the highlight. That's what I was looking forward to. Okay.
Right.
So I'll never forget. I landed in Los Angeles, and I had the address to the academy, and it was too early to check into my hotel. So I had the Uber take me to. Now this is 2018. I had the Uber take me over there to the academy. Well, they dropped me off out front. I had my suitcase. I've got
Can I
everything.
interrupt you just real quick?
Yep.
Did you have your own school at that time?
Yes, I
Okay, so
did.
you were just teaching
I
traditional
did.
type or
Uh,
Shotokan, I'm sorry.
Traditional Shotokan at
Yeah,
the
okay,
time.
go ahead.
And that's
I just
it.
wanted to kinda get a context
Yeah,
there, so I
sure.
knew.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did have my own school. So you got to remember, just real quick, I've been teaching martial arts for 25 years. Skinner's Martial Arts, which we changed the name to
mhm,
Transform Academy, that's a 2016 landmark. That's where that changed. That's when we actually said, okay, so I used to teach in, okay, if Parks and Rec called, I was there to
sure.
teach.
Yeah,
If a
I
grade
did
school,
similar, yeah.
yeah, a grade school called, I would go do it. Hindsight now, that's not the way to start a martial arts school.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
it's exhausting and it takes a lot out of you, and
Yeah,
you know all those
been
things,
there.
and it just takes all of your time, and there's no reward. But because students are there, and then the season's over, and then they're not there anymore,
Right.
and you don't get to do the things you need to do with them. So yeah, so I own my school, and so
Now you're standing in front of Machida.
I'm standing there. I'm looking at the door, and I open the door. All the lights are off except for I can see the main dojo floor in there, and I had seen it from Instagram, so I knew what it looked like. And I can see lights are on in there, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. There's people here at least. The door was open, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And I walked in the door, and I walk around the corner, and there's Lyoto.
Wow.
He's on the mat. He's wearing just shorts. He's got his gloves on. He's got Vinicio Anthony in front of him, which was his coach at the time. Got a couple other guys that I now am really good friends with that I know who they. I didn't know who they were then, but I know them now. That were out there training, and I'm standing there, and I'm one of six people in a room with Lyoto Machida, the
Yeah.
light heavyweight champion, used to the former light heavyweight champion of the world,
Yeah.
and you got to remember this would have been coming off of his knockout of Vitor Belfort. So that's whenever I mean, so he was kind of back on top of the world at that
Right.
moment, And so I was like, I can't believe I'm standing here, and maybe I should go ahead and go get my picture right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I was
Before
thinking.
he leaves.
Yeah, before he leaves. And Shinzo walked around the corner. His brother Shinzo. And if you don't know who Shinzo Machida is, he is an accomplished martial artist in his own right. He was, I think, the two-time Brazilian national champion in point sparring. He had a career in Bellator. He recently, let's see, a couple years ago, we went to LA and he fought Karate Combat, won his fight there. So he's an accomplished fighter of his own right. He's never got to win the UFC belt, and so that's why you maybe not heard as much of his name. But he's very good and I'm an amazing martial artist. Shinzo comes out and welcomes me. Hey, good to meet you. What's your name? Well, when I told him, he goes, "Yeah, you're one of our instructors. Great, great, good to have you." And I thought, how did he? I thought I really thought inside he made that up.
Yeah.
There's no
Right.
way he
You
remembered
just
my name.
yeah.
So he said, "Okay, we'll see you. We'll see you tomorrow morning." He said, "Leoto's training right now. We don't want to interrupt him, but we'll see you in the morning." I said, "No problem." So I left, called an Uber, or you
Yeah.
know, I'm still old fashioned. I still
Yeah.
call. But anyway, so I went to my hotel. 8 a.m. the next morning, I'm back, and I walk in the room. There's 20 of us.
Really.
That's it.
Yeah.
20 people and the Machida family. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I learned that this was actually very selective. They went through a very strenuous process to pick who they picked.
Hmm.
They looked through all the videos, and they were hand selecting votes for this program. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I'm on a whole different, like, I feel very privileged, very,
Yeah.
humbled and honored.
You realize that they are wanting people to represent them
Exactly.
that were on the level they needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And it was very humbling,
Mhm.
incredibly humbling. And so went through that first year with them and learned so much. I came back to Kentucky and I went ahead and so the way it works, you join their association if you want to be one of their instructors. When you join the association, you get to use all of the logos and such. But more than that, I've got direct access to the founder.
Yeah.
I can call him and ask him questions.
That's right.
I can say, hey, can you shoot me a video of this? I don't understand this, and he will take his personal cell phone and shoot me a video and text it over to me. That kind of relationship, unreal.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I stumble upon this? And so now I've been with them since 2018, and it's been just incredible getting to be associated with the family to the point that Shinzo's been to my home. He's had barbecue at my house over here in Martha County,
Wow. That's so cool.
and he came here and did a seminar for me and hung out with us for a few days, and
That's awesome.
it's just incredible. And not to mention when you hear those guys call you family, that's when it's really
Yeah.
special.
Makes yeah, that has to be kind of surreal in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
went
So
all
no,
the way.
no, that's fine. That's
I
fine.
went all the way around the circus to
But
get the Ferris
it
wheel, but
wasn't a little while ago. You said you couldn't imagine you had
yeah, yeah,
enough to
yeah,
talk about.
exactly.
Here we go.
Yeah. So so what I realized that week, that first week I spent with the Machidas,
Mhm.
okay, they've already done exactly what I wanted to do.
Right.
Me blending those two styles and making it complete, and it was already packaged. It was in um, folder, a binder,
Yeah.
and it was like, here
It
you
was a
go.
system.
It was a system,
Yeah.
and it was a very, very good system. And probably more important than that was that not only was it packaged, but it was based on everything they did in the cage. Everything that they ever had to figure out and make it work and to wear the belt.
Mhm.
That's what they put in the book. Whenever one of the big techniques we use is a front kick. It's called Magiri Oisuki. So front kick, same side punch. Okay, you do it in traditional Shotokan. You just
Mhm.
don't do it in the same stance and the same way that the
Right.
Machidas teach it. Whenever you see Lyoto, if you look up the fight between Lyoto, the first time he fought, oh, I went blank. It'll come to me in just a
Yeah.
second.
We can look it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say look it up. It was the
What was Machida's first
Ryan
fight?
Bader. Ryan
Never,
Bader.
never mind.
Okay, yeah. So the first time, whenever the first time he fought Ryan Bader, what did Lyoto win with?
Right.
Pop that oisuki punch. Traditional Japanese Shotokan. Now, the average viewer wouldn't have any idea,
Wouldn't be able to catch
what
that.
was going
Right.
on there, but and or even a reverse punch, just that straight reverse punch when somebody comes in,
Hmm.
that's all it took. He went down. That stuff. So that class, that's a class in the program.
Really.
Yeah, that jumping front kick, the one that he
Mm.
knocked the tooth out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's in the class.
So in my what I'm kind of seeing, what it kind of sounds like is he's taking a system that will give him will benefit his traditional system in a way that's going to make it more applicable in that situation where a long stance sometimes could be manipulated by someone taking it down or some
Right,
different types of sweeps. Yeah, and so now he's modifying those systems so that it's giving him more opportunity to apply those shots that
right.
he may not have gotten otherwise.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's brilliant, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. It's really brilliant. And so now here's the thing that I really appreciate being associated with this system and this family and this organization is that it's not like it's over.
Oh,
You,
right.
you know what I mean?
It's
They are still in the cage with now Lyoto's not fighting right now, Shinzo's not fighting right now, but all so I told you I mentioned the names. Weber Almeida is one of them.
mhm,
He's currently ranked, I can't remember where he's ranked, but he's in Karate Combat, if you've seen that organization.
mhm,
Not going to be surprised to see him get a shot at the belt before too long. He's, I think, undefeated in there. Of course, he fought for Bellator for a while as well too. Did very well in Bellator. Um, you've got Bruno Souza. He actually won the LFC, uh, yeah, LFA, excuse me, belt. Got his shot to go to the UFC. He's fought in the UFC. He's fighting in some other organizations now. Amazing fighter,
mhm,
amazing. Both those guys. And Weber, Weber's he's a musician, a children's author. He's an
right.
all around guy. He's
That's
one of the
cool.
best fighters I've ever been around. I mean, I've ever even seen. He's so good. Um, you got Rafael Barboza right now. He's one of the instructors at the Machida Academy. He just got home from Japan just last week, I think it was. Fought in Pancrase over in Japan. Won
Right.
his fight over there. He actually won it with an anaconda choke.
Oh, wow.
So he's a Machida fighter. Won it with an anaconda choke to tell you what the fullness or the completeness of the system.
Yeah.
And so these guys, so these guys are in the gym with Shinzo, every day. Now, when I say in the gym, I don't mean that they're practicing getting ready for the next fight. When you go to a 6-year-old's class at the Machida Academy, Weber Almeida's teaching the class.
Uh,
Yeah, they're all instructors at the school, and so when you go take a class out there, you take it with Rafael, you take it with Shinzo, you take it with all those guys. They're the ones teaching the class,
yeah.
and so their students are getting the best. And so then when I get to go out there to LA with them, and I do it every year, I go out and hang out with them. I get to train with those guys, and
Yeah.
and the system is always changing, morphing. It's like, hey, we learned something. They're adding it.
That's good. That's the question I was getting ready to shoot out there at you. Because sometimes systems they're like, okay, wow, this is something we need to, and then they go right back to the lockdown.
Mhm.
But they're, I'm definitely not involved like I used to be. But I still kind of keep an eye on
Sure.
things, and I'm looking at some of these new jujitsu techniques that are thrown. I've always been, and I was a big fan of it because no one else was really doing it around here. Was Eddie Bravo
Hmm.
in Planet, and he was throwing stuff. A lot of it was traditional jujitsu with different names,
Yeah.
that may be applied a little differently just because of physical ability.
Hmm.
I mean, Eddie Bravo's flexibility is insane,
Yeah.
and but I was doing go-go platas and stuff like that, and people weren't used to that around here. And I even had people from Louisville come in. I had a state trooper one time. I think I got him in a go-go plata. And he was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he was a Golden Glove boxer. And I snatched it on him, and he kind of in my gym. A lot of times, the guys that I would spar with were high level, and I wasn't looking to, put a notch on my belt. So I would get them in a system, and I'd let them silently tap, and then we'd get up, and no one would even know, you know. And I got him in that go, and I could tell. I said, "There's no way he's gone. He's a goner," you know.
Yeah.
And he tapped me on the leg a little bit. We get up, we start talking. He goes, "What the hell was
Yeah.
that?"
What was
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah. And then I had that situation several times just because people weren't familiar with it. But then now I'm seeing some stuff like, what is that? There's like a basket choke and
Yeah.
different things
Fluid
like that.
choke.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I know it's probably derived from something already, but maybe has some modifications.
Hmm.
But I was wondering about that. Are they still evolving, the
Yeah.
Machida family?
Yeah. And it's really incredibly fun to be part of seeing it. Every time I go out there, I go every November, I go out to the Los Angeles and I train with them for a week. And what's really cool is we train during the week together, and they encourage, like, hey, don't just we train 8 to 3 every day. That's a
A
long
long
day on
day.
the mat. That's a
Yes, it
long day on the
is.
mat.
It's a
But
lot.
we get an hour break for lunch, and then you get from 3 to like 5:30 off, and then we go back. We come back to the academy, and we usually train at least one class that night, one adult class that night. So yeah, by Friday, I'm dragging,
I bet.
pretty bad. But it's just that the reason we do is because there's typically so much new information.
Really?
Yeah, and
That's
so
impressive.
you got to remember though, every year there's going to be some instructors that are new, they haven't experienced it, and then there's going to be all of us that have been around for a little while, that sort of thing. I don't know what the current count is. The last time I looked, there was like 9 of us that were actual Machida Association instructors. So at one time they had a website. I don't know if it's still out there or not, but it showed who the instructors are. The first time I ever opened that website, by the way, I just got to say this. I opened it up and the first face that come up on it was Lyoto.
Mm,
Then the next one was Shinzo
yeah.
Machida, and then it was Weber Almeida, and it started going. And then I'm scrolling up and I'm looking at this. I didn't even know this was coming. I didn't know. I scroll up and then it was my picture.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm on the same web page with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I felt like, man, I don't know. It was like one of the biggest moments of my martial arts career to be mentioned with those names,
Yeah.
as instructors of theirs, and it was humbling. But yes, they do continue to change and I mean keep the things that you keep what's useful, right?
Mhm.
But then when something new comes along that hey, we need to be doing this, it's there for us
Yeah.
to do. So.
I think that's key. I mean, if you go back to wherever in history, some of these original techniques were designed, somebody had to do it.
Hmm.
Somebody, I don't know how many hundreds of years ago, somebody had to, that they were swatting at each other and somebody threw a kick and it landed and it worked. And they're like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
and that's how it eventually, and then that got a little better over time, and then at some point, it seemed like it just kinda stalled,
Hmm.
until of recent,
Yeah.
and I think that's, something we should consider is, the human man, the living creature, the creating individual is always more important than any style or system, and that was a quote from Bruce Lee.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
living creature, you're gonna be more important than any style or system. I can't believe I remember that.
That was pretty impressive, I have to
Yeah,
say.
so
That was good.
You used to say that all the time, didn't you?
yeah, it was
I heard you
very
say that. My mind went, huh?
mhm.
That's good.
Yeah, well, and it is, that saying is pretty, simple, but in the same time, it's got some pretty depth to it. Um, Without that creativity, we'll never move forward, and all it takes is one person
Mhm,
to be that creative and
mhm.
change things slightly, and it
Yeah,
throws the rest into turmoil
yeah, mhm.
if they won't jump on
Adapt,
board,
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
start making
yeah,
that better.
yeah.
Some things you gotta throw out too.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
some things that are just completely,
Yeah.
"Why are we doing a
Well,
crane?
eh,
Why are we
and
doing a crane?"
yeah.
Some things are like, I don't where is the application here?
Well, I think a lot of times the things that you need to throw out is because we forget the intent to begin with.
Mhm.
Like, there was a reason, there was a legitimate reason it was taught before and it worked, right? I'll give you an example. In the old karate, in old traditional karate, you would see this.
Yeah.
You remember seeing this
Yeah,
block
I've
kind of,
done it, yeah.
yeah. And so whenever people would do this, well, what are they doing? And
Yeah.
so people started teaching things like, well, in case somebody comes at you with a kick and a punch at the same time,
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
you
I've
need to be able
been
to
there.
block both.
You
Okay.
when you have to explain
Well,
something, you don't even know why
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first off, if you're that guy, just be quiet. Okay,
Yeah.
because nobody's kicking and punching at the same time and balancing on one foot. That's not a real
Yeah.
fight. Watch a real fight, you'll see that that don't happen.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. should we discard that or should we understand it? Right.
Mm.
So I think there are times that we discard, right? But there's times that I'm like, okay, wait a minute. There at one time somebody said that was battle proven. So what were they wanting you to remember?
Right.
And so, uh, I'll never forget the reason that block came up to mind is that I was reading a book from a guy. He was a Japanese karate guy. He was attached to the Asai Shotokan organization. And what he mentioned in the thing was, and this is going to go back to what we were talking about earlier. He mentioned the beginning of the kata Heian Sandan, and this movement,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he said a lot of people have that move mistaken. That move is an arm twisting motion that I don't have time to go into in this book. And that's all he
Yeah.
said.
Right.
And so I'm like, arm twisting motion. Interesting. Okay. So now I'm in a jujitsu class.
Yeah.
Here we go
I can
again.
see it now. I
Yeah.
can see it apply now.
Yep. And so I had it was put a hand on the hip. It's kind of like an arm drag. I could get a shoulder lock.
Yeah.
Super easy, just like that. I was like, oh my gosh,
There
that's
it
Heian
is.
Sandan.
Yeah.
That's always been Heian Sandan. Or there's a knife attack in the Gracie system that they teach, and the way that you block it, you do the same arm lock. And I was like, man, it's legitimate. It's
Sure.
legitimate. And let me tell you what I have experienced with my students, and this is going to be giving away a little bit of the secret to my success as a dojo, is that when I can take Hata and show it to my students in the Shotokan classes, and show them actually a real life application, and it comes alive for them at that
Mm-hmm.
moment. And all of a sudden, this isn't just a dance anymore. This isn't just something a meaningless motion that we go through. This is history. This is battle proven techniques. This is something that, hey, if I practice it enough, maybe I can actually use this.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, it's really amazing to look through some of the older stuff, and just then stop and just be willing to ask the question, what is
How?
that? Yeah.
How did this come
Yeah.
about?
How did this, and why did it come about?
Yeah.
Right. Now, there's some times when okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I've got a personal rule. I don't talk about anybody negatively unless they're in the room with me. Okay. But I will say some of
Oh, well,
these,
there's only 2 people in this
yeah,
room.
yeah, I got you.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Except for everybody listening.
yeah.
So, but there's some of these folks that are teaching some of this non-contact.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, and it could go into some of the contact stuff too. There's sometimes people make some stuff up that violates basic principle of martial arts.
Yeah.
It doesn't work right. It will not. You're
It
like you said,
violates basic principles of physics.
physics.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The body and arms and limbs and neck and head, they all only move a certain way so far,
Yeah.
right? And so, and also knowing how to connect to the earth and how to connect to your opponent in such a way that it's actually effective. And if you can't answer those basic principles of martial arts in the technique, and one of the things I love about teaching adult classes is because, you can teach kids about anything. And let's be honest about it.
Mhm.
You can make them believe about anything
Oh, yeah. They
because
wanna believe it.
they want to believe it, and my grip is so strong
You're
I can
Superman.
make that work, right?
Yeah.
But when you grab an adult man that's your size and you say this is the technique and they don't move,
It's been swinging a hammer all day or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have to, and this is one reason I am very adamant on this. I have to be able to explain to him perfectly, like he's a 5-year-old, why this technique works. And if I can't do it, I won't teach it.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good
Yeah.
thing to do there.
Mhm.
I also, so talking about, well, one thing that I will say, and I talked about this before, is as an instructor, you can be really good at throwing a kick. You can be perfect, and you're showing it to someone and they can't get it.
Mhm.
And you're saying, no, you're not doing it right. You're not doing this right. They still can't. This is one of the things that I used to do was I would try to be able to do it wrong. I wanted to be able to replicate, and so this is more of a body awareness of myself,
Mhm.
of how to change. And sometimes it's hard when you've done things so many times,
Yeah.
So change my body so that I could do it incorrectly, and then they could see it and say, now you see what you're doing here,
Mhm.
and then I would alter that slowly,
Mhm.
show them how to get to where they needed to be, and that was one of the things I was successful
That's
with.
a great idea.
It was, yeah, so many times if somebody would have walked in and seen me trying to, in the first process where I was showing them the incorrect, they're like, yeah, this guy's an idiot. But yeah, that was one thing that helped me
Yeah.
be able to be able to do that, was to change and do it incorrectly. But then going back to kata, maybe it's the ADHD in me or something. I was never a big fan of wanting to do it. Now, understanding it and doing it, yeah, I mean, we used them and I taught them. But the thing I would always teach is, so if you're learning a strike, you'll do that strike over and over, repetition, right? That's how you're training your subconscious. Same way with blocks, same way with different things. But if you never apply movement to that, like transitional movement, and I believe personally that's where katas came into play, is yeah, you're going to need to strike this guy, but then you're going to need to move balanced as possible
Yeah.
to the next opponent or next striking
Right.
position. And that's kind of where I seen kata come into play, was it's teaching you through repetition how to move from transition from one technique to another.
How to move. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vic Milner, is that a familiar name for you?
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
remember
Yep.
Vic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's actually who I got all of my black belts from. Chuck was my instructor, but he would always take me to Vic to be tested. That's
Gotcha.
so all of my rank, all the way up to my seventh Dan, was all from Shion. It was his title, Vic Milner, and he just passed away just not too long ago. And big loss for the martial arts community around
Yeah.
here, because he's a legend around
Oh
here.
yeah.
I mean, he's really responsible for bringing a lot of martial arts to this area. A lot of times you would talk about, I hear other instructors mentioned, and they'd be like, yeah, they used to train with Vic Milner. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He was just that central theme. But one of the things that he would always say over and over about kata was that it perfected body shifting. That was he always his go-to. If you want to practice body shifting, practice kata, and that's how I always took it. Exactly the way you just described it.
Mhm.
Being able to move. Okay, so now that I'm in jujitsu as heavy as I am, being able to move in base from one position to the other. So you're never
Right.
at you're always at a place where you have an invisible connection to the earth in such a way that you can't be pushed or pulled,
Mhm.
no matter what position you're in. When you can find that, you've really got a superpower that's hard to explain.
Sure.
You can sit in a crowd. My jujitsu instructor, Jason Hawkins, talks about this all the time, and he is so right on when he says this. You can sit out in a crowd and watch somebody do a kata, and you can replicate that kata. But what you can't replicate is their connection that they have to the earth. Same thing in jujitsu. I can show the move on somebody. I can show how to do an arm lock on somebody. But then you can come out of a crowd after seeing it and try to do it. But that doesn't mean you're going to be able to get the arm lock on somebody.
Right.
You got to know how to
Yeah.
put the pressure, where to put the pressure, how to have the base, all those things, all the invisible things, right?
Mhm.
And so I think you're right. I think that's one of the reasons kata is so important. And I think what's probably missed is that this is probably the misunderstood part about kata, and this is what wakes it up for people and makes it alive again, is that when you think about kata as a textbook instead of an actual practical application,
Sure.
there is going to change your whole world.
Mhm.
Gichin Funakoshi was the founder of Shotokan, and he said that perform kata exactly, but actual combat is a different matter. That was his quote. Okay. So when you think about it in light of that, and you think about practicing moving, body shifting, that sort of thing, that gives you the reason for why it was done, like in an eye pattern.
Mhm.
The Japanese called it an embuzen. The word embuzen means performance line. There's a reason why it was like that. There was a science to that, right? How to turn, how to shift, how to move. Kasabaki is what the Japanese call body movement, right?
Mhm.
And so practical, very good usage. But then it was when you moved into that moment, into that place, and you did that weird thing with your arms, like you did this,
Yeah.
then it was like, well, I don't have any idea what that was,
Yeah.
But if you think about it like this, what if, hypothetically, what if the teacher from many years ago, 300 years ago, taught his students a bunch of different techniques, right? And in those techniques, there was some similar movement to that. But then because it was, you got to remember, karate was illegal.
Sure.
1868, it wasn't allowed to be taught. But if you know a little bit about Japanese culture, kata was taught. They had katas on how to get dressed of a day, how to do everything, right? Kata was a way that you taught people. And so what if they took those applications that they were teaching in secret, and they put them into these movements, and they say, here's your textbook. It's called Heian Shodan.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
here's your textbook. This is what you do to remember. And the practice in itself is going to be good. It's going to teach you base. It's going to teach you how to stand. It's going to teach you how to punch, how to be strong, all those things. Aesthetically, you're going to be stronger because you practice this. But up here, you got to remember when you do this move, remember that thing that we did. Remember
Sure.
this technique that we did. And so it's actually more than one purpose. And I think when you look at it that way, and I know when I teach it that way, it really opens everybody's eyes up because at that point there's no end to the learning that you get from a single kata.
Yeah, I can see that
You
now.
can spend the rest of your life.
So yeah, not to push it into the ground too much, but actually that's what we're trying to say is actually connection to the ground. I would always look at kata as especially being able to transition quickly without tripping over one yourself and keeping yourself in the most optimal position at one time. Whereas, maybe you would have your feet here and you could easily just switch your feet over, but instead of transitioning, so you're coming to a much more stable position. You're never really unstable at any given time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw it too.
Yeah.
Also kind of thought of the more connection your strike has with the ground, more powerful it's going to be. So if you could imagine a fist by itself just floating, and you put it on the ground, and how powerful that structure is. There is no because what happens is, and again, this is just me. I'm not trying to instruct at all. But when you strike something, it's a shock absorber, and the more your body allows the absorption of the energy to return, the less energy you're giving away.
Right.
So if you have that fist on the ground, there's no absorption to
You got
the
infinite base.
yeah,
You can't go
it's
anywhere.
not
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah. Sure.
But then you can't, of course, do that. So you have to think of your hand out here in limbo, and now how am I going to get it as close to connection to the ground as I can,
Yeah.
using your body and your connection to the ground that you do have. So
Yeah.
so it's drag racing. You know what I mean. You want to get as
Yeah.
much connection as you can get
Yeah.
to get as much energy transformed into the car as possible.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did. That's where I did. That's how I would always teach kata and make it. Best way I could explain it. Of course, I started training people way too. I was a kid, barely knew what I was doing,
Yeah. Me too.
and we all kind of learned as we went.
Yeah.
Um, but the thing about it was, everyone always had that small town mentality here, and they still do.
Mm-hmm.
You've had, I'm sure, some kids that have done so much, and
Oh yeah.
sometimes you look at them and it's like not fair.
Yeah.
I've always had a long body, short legs,
Yeah.
and I was always a kicker.
Yeah.
I've always been in that weight class where I'm always on the bottom of my weight
Yeah.
class because of my weight. I'm heavy,
Yeah.
but I'm a ground when I'm on the ground. I like fighting from the bottom, which is
Yeah.
rare for a heavy guy.
Yeah.
And then you'd see these dudes that were just had it all.
Yeah.
They're physically
Yeah.
they have it. They got the perfect height. They got good
Yeah.
hips. They got it. But we see those guys and then they get that small town mentality, and that's something I'm glad you came on this show for, is I want people to realize that they could have that same experience as you did standing there in Machida's dojo. you
Absolutely.
know um here we are from Iuka, Kentucky,
Yeah.
and where, Smithland and Granger, all these little towns of just working class guys,
Yeah.
and we're always looking at people on the TV or streaming, and you're like, they're so far away, but they're really not.
Yeah.
It's attainable for just about anybody
Absolutely.
that
It
wants to
totally is.
apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think limiting yourself sometimes, and especially in today's world, it's so much smaller.
Yeah.
At one time when I was growing up and this little Jake Duke's road in the middle of nowhere with no one around me, um, you know, about 2 hours of TV you could ever even get, and that was your only outside experience,
Yeah.
other than school when you went to school. That's no longer the case. I
Right.
mean, the world can come to you from anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, especially in the martial arts world, that it's really actually a small, tight knit family. Really. I
It
mean, it
is, yeah.
really is. I mean, and it's like you said, it's completely possible to be standing next to the best in the world in a matter of a day.
Yeah,
And it can happen that quick.
sure.
And so yeah, I tell you, nothing breaks my heart more. And you'll understand this from coming from being an instructor. Nothing breaks my heart more to see a kid that is just natural, like come in there and you're like, man, I wish. Okay, so I own this school, and I wish that when I was that age, I could do the things so easily that that kid is doing right
Right.
there, only to see them quit play soccer.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
quit. And I'm sitting there thinking, I own a school. I mean, I had to work really hard at it, but they could be 100 times better than me,
Just because
than
of
I
their
ever
physical
was.
attributes, yeah,
Yeah,
natural.
they're just natural, and I'm sitting there I want to feed into them. I want to give them all the keys. I want to
Mhm.
hand them the keychain and
Little
say,
vicariousness there. You wanna live through these, like,
"Oh
I
yeah,
wanna
for
take
sure."
everything that I have and put it in that body.
Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
then
Just, "Hey, let me give you a shortcut."
yeah,
That's kind
right,
I've had to fight for some of these things. Let me give you a shortcut and help you,
right,
to
been there
see.
a lot.
And, some of those other sport, but I also understand that being a kid, being a teenager, whatever, you don't know what you don't know. And,
Mhm,
you got so many dreams and aspirations and things, and you're not going to find out unless you go try a lot of
right.
that stuff. Right. And so I get that
There's
too.
a definite journey
I
there.
understand it, but, um,
I lost a lot of my kids, not to soccer, but to driver's license.
oh yeah.
They'd come in young and
Yeah.
they'd stick with me for a few years and they get that driver's license and then I wouldn't see them for about 2 years.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing that I would like for people to understand about martial arts, I think people miss this sometimes, is, well, my business partner, Candace Amix, she's the
Mhm.
one, we own the business together, and she's one of my main instructors. She's a Machida Karate black belt, a Shotokan black belt, and a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So she's very, very accomplished in martial arts as well. And just, you know, just talking to her, about how all this kind of works with the kids. She's so good, by the way, with all the kid. She's the best karate instructor for kids I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I mean, she's amazing. Ages 4 up to about 13, you want her teaching your kids.
gotcha.
She's just really. I'll be honest with you, I just forgot where I was going with that, so
Yeah, that's fine.
you might have to
Well,
edit
also
that out.
when we were talking about there, you were talking about that person with that natural ability.
Yeah,
I would have those kids come in, and it was always interesting because it almost always played through. They had the natural ability. They could kick. Maybe they had really flexibility, or they were real strong, or they just had that little, whatever it was. And then there were the other kids that would come in, and they were struggling and struggling, but they would stick with it. The ones that stuck with it,
yeah,
and it was always that thing where that natural kid just come in and excelled, and
yeah,
always just. And
yeah,
but then this other group would train, and they would catch up then they would surpass because they learned a very valuable lesson,
yeah,
how to train. They
yeah,
learned
yeah,
how to train.
yeah,
This one never did. So when they got leveled up,
yeah,
these people started to excel, and these would then struggle because they didn't know how to put in the time or
yeah,
the repetition, everything coming natural. And guess what would happen?
yeah.
They'd fall
To
away.
fall away.
Yeah.
Right. So I was talking Candace
Yeah.
Amos,
Candace. Yeah.
she's my business partner. So talking about that, just what you're talking about how the kids do that, they tend to fluctuate and that sort of thing. One of the things that I really want people to understand is the importance when it comes to martial arts that the whole thing is consistency.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. So when she signed up her kids a long time ago, the class, the reason I brought her up, she signed her kids up and she thought she was signing up for a soccer season. That's what she thought it was. She
Okay. I
she
got
thought
you.
it was a
Yeah.
semester,
Yeah. I understand.
like I'm going to sign my kids up for 4 or 5 weeks and we're going to be done with karate season. And
Yeah.
then it's going
And
to
then
go
it's
away.
baseball
And then
season.
it's baseball season,
Yeah. Right.
right? And that sort of thing. And I get a lot of parents that think that's how that works, but what you don't understand is that martial arts, it's a life lesson. It's a journey. It's something that this season you're going to learn more about this thing in your own life, but then there's going to be more that you learn as you go. And the longer you stay consistent to the path, the better you are.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things. If you stop doing it, you either stunt yourself right there, or sometimes you never pick it back up. And that's the big loss in martial arts. The kids that I have seen that stay, the reason that the say for instance the Shotokan program, the black belt is approximately 4 to 5 years, and so the reason that it's that long, think about it. How long does it take to get a bachelor's degree in college?
Right.
4 years,
Right.
right? When you get a bachelor's degree in college, do you know how to do your job when you get a job? No, of course not.
Right.
The bachelor's degree gave you all the tools, all the fundamentals to be able to go then and learn how to do your job. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same idea. It's the same principles with martial arts. I need that consistent amount of time. I need all the semesters with your child to get them to that point. Then, whenever I get them there, they're going to be ready to start learning. They
Yeah.
haven't learned it yet. They're going to be
Yeah.
ready to start learning.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's almost like they get the knowledge and then they have to then be taught how to use the knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, by the way, I'll caveat here, Candace. So I told her she was out there in the class watching her kids, and I said, "Hey, it's a lot more fun if you're out here than it is sitting in the seat right there. Well, she took me up on it. She come out and tried class, and now she's a co-owner in a martial arts
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I
so
followed you guys a little. Just I seen the evolution of
yeah,
that group there.
yeah,
Maybe if we get do this again sometime, we bring both of you in, we can bounce back and forth a little bit.
yeah, for
Kind of
sure.
different perspectives there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that'd be
sure.
great.
Yeah, 'cause
I
it
haven't
will
seen her in
be.
a long
It'll
time.
be very different perspectives,
Yeah,
but very accurate on both sides.
sure.
So it'll be good. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I could also see a girl or a woman being more. Sometimes when you get those, especially those young kids, right in, they're a little less intimidating,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
going to be a little more accepting of that. So
Yeah, that was something I did intentionally a long time ago. I realized that, um, well, I'm a big, ugly,
yeah,
bald guy.
right, yeah,
I
we
mean,
can.
and look at
It
me.
takes a minute for us to kind of make it like, oh, this guy is going to smash
He's
me.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not yelling at me. He's just talking to me,
right.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Whereas, my business partner Candace, she can come up to a kid with that big smile and, caring eyes, and she knows how to get right down on their level, talk to them. Next thing you know, they're out there having a blast,
yeah,
and so she's taught me so much about how to teach a kid.
yeah,
I said earlier, I love to teach adults. I do because it keeps me truthful.
yeah.
It makes I have to be honest. Not that I wouldn't want to be honest. It's just that
It could get
sometimes
away from you.
sometimes you can trick yourself.
Absolutely.
So so
Best liar can lie to himself. If you can make
exactly,
yourself believe it, you can make anybody believe it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to be under any illusion that I'm any better than I actually am.
yeah,
I don't care anything about that.
yeah,
I want to make sure that what I'm teaching is truthful, it's accurate, because I have to be careful talking about this because I get choked up. I care about my students.
mm,
I don't want to have anybody go out there with a false sense of assurance that they are more
absolutely.
capable than they actually are.
Yeah,
And so it's the reason I'm very protective of them. And they're just like my kids. Some
yeah,
of them are older than me. My two oldest students are 76 and 78. And
yeah,
I treat them just like they're some of my kid students,
yeah,
and I care because I want them to go out there and have confidence in themselves, because that's one of the things that martial arts gives you is not only confidence, but discipline, and, so many of these attributes that it takes a lot of work to earn, you know, but get a real keen awareness of actually who you are.
yeah.
You read the Book of Five Rings. You've probably read it, I'm
It's
sure.
here somewhere.
Is it right
Let's
there?
see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. I mean,
Mhm.
what does it say? If you know yourself and don't know your enemy, you've got about a 50%
Right.
chance of winning. But if you know yourself and know your enemy, you're going to win every time, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know either one, you don't have a chance. That
Sure.
was all paraphrased, obviously, but
Yeah.
but
You have to know your own
yeah,
limitations.
exactly. Yeah.
Man, I lost my pen. I have so many notes I wanted to not forget because there's just the things you were talking about there. So when I started teaching, I didn't really. I was taught, but I wasn't taught how to teach.
Yeah.
So I kind of learned, and I learned some things that I apply still. When I like with children, teaching children, especially some small ones, like 5 to not 8,
Yeah.
they would get hurt, especially when they first got to class. They might get hurt. They trip. Nothing serious. We're talking hurt, not injured.
Yeah.
And, the first thing everyone wants to do is go, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Come here. Let me hold you. Oh, it's going to be okay. Don't you worry, sweetheart." I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
that, that was what I would do. I was like, "Oh, yeah, it looks pretty bad. Let's go." And get right back to it because the attention that they were getting was upsetting them.
It does.
The
It gets
the
them.
pain from the little injury wasn't
Yeah.
nothing. Just that the amount of attention is
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, something's really happening.
Everybody thinks I should be hurt. I'm hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
just little
Yeah.
tricks like that I would
Yeah.
learn with kids
Yeah.
that made it a lot better. And I had some really great kids that I actually get to meet and talk to every once in a while, and that's the best thing of it.
Mhm.
Um, as from doing it from so many years, unless you're going to be able to have a system like the Machida family or the Gracies, or you're willing to move to Los Angeles and start something, don't count on making a lot of money
No.
as an instructor. I never showed a positive at the end of a year,
No.
ever, never making that money. So
No. So most martial arts schools fail in the first 3 years.
yeah,
That's a known fact. Trying to make it a business is very tricky.
very hard.
It's because, and I think the reason it's tricky is because of the the fact that this is my personal belief. Some other school owners may not agree with this, and that's fine. I don't mind, but martial arts, I don't know that it was ever really intended to be a business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
It,
agree.
it
Yeah.
was a thing that was, from one person to the other. Let me teach you some things about life,
Sure.
and we're going to do that through physical combat. And it just really wasn't something that, um, you know, it was something that was mixed into daily life.
Mhm.
And so therefore, making something like that a business is kind of hard to do sometimes. So anyway, I would just say that, yeah, it's kind of hard to get one making some money and doing
Mhm.
well.
Maybe that's why the Machidas and the Gracies have done so well is they are a family teaching,
That's right.
that, and so
Yeah,
therefore it becomes, a little different there.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they're
yeah, for
passing
sure.
something on because it's a lineage. It's like almost a duty to do that for them. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I think for me, one of the things that's made me successful is that, and I say I'm successful. I run a little school in Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not in Los Angeles. I'm not. I'm not.
Hmm.
I'm not competing with these big guys. Uh, I look at this differently. I am not in competition with any other martial arts school in the world. I don't, there's nothing about this that's competitive for me, as far as business
Right.
goes. When somebody in fact, I've sent a lot of students to other schools when they tell me exactly what they're looking for, and I realize I can't give them that.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, this other one here. This is going to be the right school for you. I've done that so many times.
Right.
Um, I think one of the things for me is I try to make it like a family. People come in, you're part of our family once you're in the group.
Hmm.
I remember your school being that way whenever I was there. It's very
Yeah.
much that way. It was very good. I think that's important. The other thing is I try to run my school very professionally.
Yeah.
Everything has its place. Everything has its time. I try to run it. I try to run it tight. I run a tight ship. I've got about 8 instructors that work for me, and so I teach most of the bulk of the classes. But I've got some really talented folks. We got 6 of us. So 2018, Caleb went by himself to Los Angeles,
Hmm.
and I learned from the Machidas. This year there'll be 6 of us going to train with the
Wow.
Machidas, and so all 6 of us will go. We'll all come out with our certifications. We'll all be able to teach the program. And I'm right now trying to find other black belts in Western Kentucky, Northwest Tennessee, Southeast Missouri, Southern Illinois that want to go. You want to be a Machida instructor? I can
Yeah.
help you get there. And so I would love to like meet those folks and be like, hey, let's work together and get you a certification. I'll introduce you personally to Shinzo Machida, and he'll give you a phone call,
That'd be
and
awesome.
that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And so anyway, I've been trying to try to build up this area and help spread Machida karate in this area as
Yeah.
well. So, but I think to kind of go back to being successful and trying to make money at it is obviously you have to have numbers of people, and to have numbers of people you have to have a reputation that you're trustworthy, that it's safe environment,
Hmm.
it's a clean environment, it's professional. This guy, this girl that owns this martial arts school, they care about my well-being. So one of the things that I think can really speak against that pretty quickly is, people are coming into your school and they're getting injured really badly,
Right.
and then they're leaving and people are seeing them and there's like, what happened to you? Well, I was training the other day and I broke my arm, or I broke my shoulder, or I broke my. I've got a job. I can't
Sure.
I can't get broke. I've
Yeah.
got to be okay the next day. So that's the reason I'm really protective of my students too. I just don't let anybody, like when people come in and I've had people come in before and they just want to spar. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I
Yes.
don't mean to offend you, but this isn't your place.
Yeah.
There's lots of fighting gyms you can go to and do that. This isn't a fighting
Sure.
gym. This is a martial arts studio.
Right.
And so I'm really protective of that. And I think that has been one of the things that makes us successful.
Yeah.
So
Well, that shows that you care about their safety.
yeah.
And in the fight, and like you said, there is a definite hard line in the sand when it comes to a fighting gym and a dojo.
Yeah.
Just because they are training, you know, they're training to do similar things, but it's not in the same application.
Yeah.
Most students aren't looking to get into a mid to full contact sparring match, 5, 6, 7, more than that times a week,
Yeah.
if they ever. They're looking to be able
Yeah.
to come in, have someone train them correctly, be prepared, and like you said, give them the confidence they need. And at the same time, maybe have some camaraderie and
Yeah.
find some people that they'll have in their life for
Yeah.
for a lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the
Yeah.
students that come in, you know, of course, I'm obviously not going to share any names of anybody, but I can tell you that I remember having a little boy come in one time that was about 9 years old, 8 years old, and he walked through the door and he was crying with his mom, and she's like, brought him to try karate. He's really upset, you know, and so finally talked him out onto the mat. For the first 3 months, that kid cried in every class.
Mm.
Every class, he would come in crying, he would leave crying, and it hit me one day. I was like, it really started feeling strongly for that young man. I was like, he doesn't believe himself to the point that he's so upset that he's just emotional about it, you know. And so I started working intentionally for him to have some wins. You know,
Yeah.
let's have some wins here. So he made it through that kata, and I kind of everybody saw what was going on. So he made it through. He learned his kata. The entire dojo erupted with, you know, praise and you
Hmm.
know whatever. Next thing you know, this kid's volunteering to do kata in front of everybody because
Yeah.
he's like, these people believe in me, you know.
Yeah.
And that young man got his black belt a few months ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
goes and you know, okay, so here's what's interesting about it is he came to me with absolutely no confidence
Yeah.
whatsoever in being able to do anything. The
Mm.
other day he came to me and he said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna take a break from karate. I think I'm gonna play basketball."
Yeah.
Okay, normally, and it did
It
upset me a little bit.
stung a little
I'll
bit.
be
It
honest, you
stung a
know,
little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, I was sitting there thinking, if he hadn't ever started karate, he wouldn't have ever
He
played
would
basketball.
never been on that
Yeah,
team, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, that's it right there.
Yeah.
That's why I do this,
Yeah.
right?
That's
And that if you're doing it for any other reason, you're going to be very disappointed,
sure.
you know.
Yeah.
And then I've had that older fella, 60 years old, corporate executive, has everything literally in the world. There's nothing I can give this guy except the confidence he's needing because he's lost confidence in himself at work,
Yeah.
you know, and that sort of thing. And it's just that story. So it depends on what time of year, you know. You get into the summertime, boy,
Yeah.
60 students at my school, maybe. It's like, oh, you get into the fall, winter, I might have 150, you know,
Yeah.
it just depends. It fluctuates, you know. Um, let's just say it's coming up here this fall, 150. I'll have 150 of those stories, and every single one of them are individual. Every one of them are different, and
Hmm.
every one of them are just as important as the other,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's helping each one of those people, you know, find that thing inside of them that they're needing. What is their, we call it, you know, what is their weakness? Doesn't mean that they're weak. It just means that there's a thing that they haven't figured out yet, you know.
Right. Having
And how can we get there through martial arts, you
right.
know? And in the meantime, I'm going to teach you how to choke somebody.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Right.
fun, you know. I'm
Definitely.
going to teach you how to kick. I'm going to teach you how to punch, you know.
That goes back to that word success, and I talked about this a few times on the podcast. I guess I sometimes have a weird sense of success. If you come to a restaurant that I own and I make you a steak and I set it there and you start, like, Joe, my God, dude, this is the best steak I ever had.
Mm.
Bing,
Yeah,
that's success.
success, sure.
Now I might have lost $3 because I undercharged you.
Yeah. You're right.
So some people have that,
Yeah,
you got to know where your success is.
yeah.
And sometimes it's not even success, it's necessary. I mean, sometimes if you don't have the means to run at this particular with this amount of money, then well, you just can't do it. But in your situation, you're able to do this. And whether you make 100,000, $1 million that's not where you're fine. If you did the same thing and made $1 million,
Mhm.
yet when you did it, you I call it the daycare schools,
Yeah.
and we've been kind of on that other side of this. So we're going to put your school in the middle as a standard,
Uh-huh.
right? And then if we go over here to the fight gyms, hey, I ran a fight gym.
Yeah.
I mean, we did ridiculous stuff,
Uh,
but it wasn't for everybody,
right. Yeah.
and these guys, they're not, they don't need to be in here. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to do well. And so there's a reason there's that there. Now let's go to the other side of it
Mhm.
where you've got what I call the daycare schools.
Mhm.
And the daycare schools, I can talk about. You may not want to, but
Mhm.
I can talk about the daycare school, and I'm not mentioning any names, of course. But it's just where it's you drop your kid off and you go have date night, and you come back and you pick them up. And not that that's a problem. Hey, date night's important,
Yeah.
but what's your child getting when
Yeah.
he's
What
there?
are you getting
Are
for your
they just
money?
rolling? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Are you just getting the daycare?
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen often. Not as much around here. It's more in the large. You see these schools where you talk about having 150 students. I'm guessing you don't have 150 in one class.
No, I think most of the time the max. I'm talking out of 2 locations too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, we'll have max. We'll have 30
Yeah.
on a mat one time.
I'm talking 70 kids
Yeah,
rolling
yeah.
around doing, something, one over against a wall looking at his phone.
Yeah.
No structure at all. And, maybe there is a need for that. But your success is based on where you are. You're looking to get those meaningful stories. Not even if you never shared one, it's gonna be something that you got from
Yeah.
it. That's what you receive, and it may not be financial, but you that money comes and goes. That you'll have that for the rest of your life.
Right.
And I had some hard times with my training. I had some people kind of I don't know. Sometimes people can just walk away and change the way they are. But there's always those success stories that I can't even tell you any. There's never really any money made. But I do have those success stories of people that had come to me or send me a message to say, "Hey, I want you to know, man, I was,
Yeah.
trouble. I was not in a good place, and
Yeah.
you were there, and you treated us all like family." So that was
Yeah.
that's my success.
For
And
sure.
that's how I believe in success, and
Yeah.
I'll die that way. I'll probably die poor, but
Well,
it's like this show. I get to have some unbelievable conversations with people
yeah.
that and it's given me. It started out with just I know a bunch of people. I've
Yeah.
done a bunch of stuff. I had poker players. I
Yeah.
played poker for years. I got a martial artist, and then I started bring a therapist on. I got a friend that's there. Oh yeah, come on. And then the next thing you know, we've got people coming from the Department of Defense to talk about I can't even know what it is. UFOs. Let's just the old word.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got guys from Italy talking to us about building, art and world building for games and things. And so, and whether I make any money out of that, I've succeeded because I got to have those conversations and I
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
myself. So
Absolutely.
I hope everyone. I think it's something we all need to kind of maybe have a little bit of, but be careful.
Uh-huh.
It has caused me a lot of financial
Yeah.
stress. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
I can totally understand that.
yeah. So tournament wise, I don't know. Every once in a while, I still get to see some really cool kata.
Yeah.
Some
I know.
back in the day with the XMA guys and the John Paul Mitchell team. I don't know if you remember all those guys.
Oh,
Some of the open
absolutely. Yeah.
karate tournaments.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Doing the flips and everything. Everybody, all the traditional artists hated them because they did.
Yeah.
They flipped and stuff.
Yeah.
But is the traditional karate tournaments and the open karate tournaments still a pretty viable thing?
They're not to me. You don't see as many of them around here as you used to see. There's a few folks that are putting some on, and they do well. I think they do a great job of putting them on. They're thought out. They're from people who have all competed at a high level at some point, so they know what works and what doesn't work, and they know what the students are needing too. So I've been very impressed with
Mm-hmm.
all the folks locally who are putting on tournaments. Back when Chuck Newton, my original instructor, Shion Chuck, um, so back about the time I was getting involved with the Machidas, I went to him. He had decided to retire from tournaments, and so I went to him. And as you know, his was probably the biggest,
The
most
big
popular tournament around here.
for years and years. Yes.
And I went to him and I said, hey, I know you're retiring. How would you feel about me picking it up and keeping it going? He said, "I would love that." He goes, "It's just not." He said, I'm just done. It's ran its course with me."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "But yeah, I would love it. I'd love to see you do that." And so he started helping me prepare for my first one. I was putting everything together, and then I got the phone call that evening that he had passed away. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were in the middle of having conversations about how to do this tournament, which I had been to a lot of his, helped him with a lot of them. So I already, had a good idea. So I hosted a tournament that same year that he passed, and we decided to name it the Chuck Newton Memorial Classic,
That's awesome.
and so we did that for a couple of years in a row, and then COVID hit. So
Yeah.
that was 2018, 19, and then COVID hit, and so when COVID hit, it was like almost impossible to do something in person like that, and so we just kind of let it go. Some other folks around the area really kicked off and have been doing a really good job of keeping sport karate alive and well, in Western Kentucky. And I tell you, I've just had so many people reach out to me in the last year. It has been unreal how many phone calls and messages and Facebook messages I've got and said, "Hey, are you bringing the tournament back? Are you ever
Mm-hmm.
going to bring the tournament back?" And I'm thinking, here's what I'm honestly thinking. there's plenty of tournaments.
Sure.
You don't need me to have that headache, go out on that limb, take the
Mhm.
risk that's involved with doing that. It's, let me introduce you to some folks.
Right.
But I just keep getting those phone calls. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to do this. And so we're going to actually, this November the 1st, we're going to bring back the Chuck Newton Memorial Classic.
Right.
You're going to be at Calvert City Elementary.
Yeah.
Gonna do it there, and yeah. So
Well,
uh,
that's awesome.
yeah, already got everything set up. It's ready to go, and so
Well, definitely we need to make sure and make a note of that. And so after the, just so you know, because I'll forget to tell you, after this podcast, Tristan will be reaching out to you quite a bit,
yeah,
and he'll try not to nag you, but he'll want pictures and names, and
sure,
he'll want to put stuff together.
that's fine.
So he'll do his best on that. He recently has had one with our guy Cody Cherry. You might not even
Yeah,
know
yeah,
Cody
yeah,
Cherry.
yeah,
He came in and did one, and it was a really fun one. But Tristan was just sitting there kind of go, he had a lot of research to do
yeah.
afterward, trying to keep up with Cody's knowledge. So we'll have him reach out to you, but let's make sure that we get that in the in the information that we have for this
Sure,
to let people
sure.
know
Yeah, and
that's
if you
on.
like want pictures of me with the
Absolutely.
Machidas and all that stuff,
Yeah,
I can give
we're
you all that stuff.
normally what we do is we'll have it up here as we're talking. We can pull stuff up,
Gotcha.
but we're new studio. We haven't got
Yeah, sure.
all that
Yeah,
worked out yet. So he adds it in post. He'll add the pictures, and
cool.
it's really
Yeah,
cool. Yeah,
yeah.
he'll do a good job of
I can
that.
do that.
Um, but that karate tournament. So something. As we were sitting here talking, something nostalgic just came into my mind, just out of the blue, and I wish that I had one. And if you got one, I doubt you do. But those old Chuck Newton Karate Elite tournament posters he would send out,
Oh yeah,
like blue. Sometimes they were
yeah,
red, and they were like, on a,
yeah.
and he'd put them
Hand
up,
drawn.
and it looked like, yeah, they'd always been like reprinted, more so many times
They
that they,
were. It's
yeah,
exactly what he
over and
did. Yeah,
over and
yeah,
over, and new
yeah.
stuff was added
Every time
in.
he added something new, he just penciled it in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's another one of those. Just
Let me
hang
see
on.
what let me see what I can
I would
do.
hang it on the wall in here,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would be a great
Let me see
memorabilia.
what I can do. That's possible.
Yeah.
I'd say Maryland. She might still have a few of those
It should
around.
be
So,
awesome.
so
Well, I bet a lot of people would like to have one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You never think about stuff like that in the moment.
In the moment, it's
It's
hard
like,
to.
hey, Chuck, sign this.
Yeah,
Can you imagine how, and it may not be, that to everybody, but to me, that would mean a lot.
yeah,
Just that little
yeah.
memorabilia
So,
thing.
so the night that I tested for my fifth dawn, I went. I wanted a group picture of all the people who tested me, and I got it printed, and I took it back, and I had each one of those guys sign that picture for me.
Mm,
None of them are celebrities. They are to me,
yeah.
but I had them sign it for me, and I still got that picture,
Yeah.
and it means the world.
Oh, yeah.
And I bet Shinzo and Lyoto, I bet they're so tired of signing stuff for me.
Yeah. They're
But
like, this guy must be eBaying this stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not. It's
Yeah.
all locked up in a safe. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, because every time I go to a seminar that they teach, I'll print the seminar off and I'll have
Yeah.
them sign that poster, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So that's something that we're going to be doing with the podcast too. Every time we do a coming soon little
Yeah.
promo thing that we put out, and I make them up, and I think I do pretty good. I'm pretty proud of them. But people are looking at them all like, oh, good job, Joe. Yeah,
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah.
I don't know because
Yeah.
no one would tell me to do, but I'm proud of them. We do a little trailer too, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I take a lot of time and I pride in those. But anyhow, we're going to print those posters up of every
Yeah.
one we have, and then maybe have them come back and
Awesome.
sign off
That'd
on
be
them and
cool.
hang
Yeah.
them up here in the studio. I
Yeah.
think that'll be. I don't know. I'm weird like that. I like that
No,
nostalgia stuff.
I'm the
Yeah.
same way. That's
So,
cool stuff.
so family wise, we've talked a lot about karate, and because that's why you're here. And talking about having that nostalgic feeling, somebody like Chuck, if I had him, just years ago, signed that would have been a prized possession. That monetary value probably wouldn't have a lot. And then we talk about people like that with celebrity status, but my dad was just to have anything from that from him would be like the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
He passed last year, and I talked too much about that, I know, but pretty much every podcast I talk about him. But uh, how how I know you had some struggles with your family recently, your dad and
Yeah.
mom, and
Yeah.
how's everything? How's
That
everybody rebounding from all
yeah,
that?
that's been a crazy season.
Yeah.
So so back in June of last year, Dad, he'd been spent a lot of time with just me and Dad. I know you did the same thing with
Hmm.
yours, but it'd just be me and him in the living room. My mom would be with my sister somewhere, or whatever, and we just sit and talk. And about a month before he passed, he told me, he's like, I just need you to know, it's coming to an end, you know. And I'm like, Dad, I really wish you wouldn't talk like that.
Yeah.
You
You never.
have
Yeah.
those talks, but he could feel it. He
Hmm.
could feel some changes going on, I guess. And so anyway, he one Sunday morning, he got up and just wasn't himself. He was lethargic and ended up getting his recliner. My mom helped him in his recliner, and then he just never really would wake up. He was just kind of foggy. Called an ambulance, got him to the hospital. They ended up intubating him. They realized that his oxygen levels weren't very good, and apparently they hadn't been.
Yeah.
No way to know who goes around with the oxygen sensor on
Right.
their little finger, you know. And so he woke up for us in the ICU a couple of times. I got to make eye contact with him, and I'll never forget that. My business partner Candace actually came over at that particular day, the last time him and I actually had a good conversation. No talking. He was intubated, but he looked me in the eye and he shook his head,
Hmm.
no, and I knew exactly what that meant. And everybody was in the room, and I said, "It's okay.
Mm.
I got it, no
Yeah.
problem."
Right.
And it was right after that he kind of went unconscious, and he never woke back up. He was in the hospital for like 2 3 weeks
Yeah.
like that, and so we ended up. The doctor suggested that we put him on comfort care, and that's what we did. He only lived about 6 hours when we put him on comfort care, so the machines were keeping him alive, And
Sure.
so now here's where it got weird. My mom was going back and forth every day, hospital home. She was home just right before he passed, and she tripped and fell and broke her knee.
Mm.
Well, the mail carrier called me and said, "Hey, I just found your mom. She's out here on the ground. It was so hot that day. It's like it is today. It's really hot." And so I called an ambulance. I went over, got her. We got her loaded on an ambulance. So she broke her knee bad enough. She needed surgery. So she ended up having surgery, saved her life because we didn't realize her bowels were dying. And we didn't know that at the time. So she's in the hospital. It starts going down really quickly. I came home. I was having some of my karate instructors over one evening so I talked a lot about my business earlier. That group of karate instructors, they're all voluntary. I don't, we
Yeah.
don't, none of us make any money. We do this because we love the people
Sure.
who come. And so I just every now and then take a chance to feed them or something just to say thank you. And they were all at the house, and I got a phone call that mom was going into emergency surgery, and the doctor said that she probably wouldn't make it. Where did that come from?
Exactly.
And I get to the hospital. When I walked up onto the floor, they they were rolling her into surgery on the
Wow.
bed. I made it just in time. Gave her a kiss. We prayed together, and they just said, "Yeah, you're probably not going to see her alive again." She's not only. I think they said 20% of people make it through this surgery, and she was already in a lot of health problems.
Right.
So um, had the surgery, everything reconstructed, survived, you
Right
know.
back out.
And so now she's actually living with my sister, she's doing well.
That's great.
She's doing so much better, making it okay. And so it was,
It,
but there for just a moment, I
it
thought we were
was
going to
pretty
lose
scary.
mom
So
before dad.
yeah.
It was crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The one thing about I have a few goals in life, and one of them is that when my kids are sitting around a table, they're 30 some years old, talking to their friends, that they don't, their dad, my dad was, he did his best, he did his best. He was a good guy. I don't want to ever think that I left them with, I had a piece of crap dad, and I've seen that too many times.
yeah,
And that's one thing about my dad is far from perfect, I do talk about him a lot and how he influenced my life. And he was really the only person in my entire for he was my constant. Of course, he was there from when I was born. But a lot of parents aren't like you knew my mom.
oh yeah,
She was there when I was born too, but she didn't stick around. He was throughout life. I had people come and go in my life, and
yeah.
a
But he was,
lot. The people that I really believed in and trusted and loved and cared about. And he was always there. He was a constant.
yeah,
And one of my goals was, other than that, was to not completely disappoint the man before he passed away. So gave him some pretty good runs for his money, but I bounced back.
yeah, yeah,
I
right,
dropped the ball, and he'd be like Joseph, and then I'd pick the ball up.
yeah, right,
So for the most part,
yeah,
I was able to follow through for that. But man, those things in your life, they really bring you back
yeah,
to reality, to the things that are
yeah.
really important.
No things are important. Yeah.
So
Your dad, man, I was always impressed with him. He gave me my first motorcycle ride.
really, no, I
Uh,
didn't know that, but
yeah,
yeah,
he was it a Gold Wing that he
yeah,
had?
Vulcan and something.
I can't
I don't
remember.
know. Yeah, I'll
But
kind of.
he put me on the front
Yeah,
and rode me. I still got a faint memory of that. I was a
yeah,
little guy. He gave me my first motorcycle ride, and I love to ride motorcycles,
yeah,
you know. And I don't know, maybe it was Pat's fault that I
yeah.
like to ride motorcycles, but
He was an interesting guy. I know you would. He would be looking at him being easy to misread. I always tell you, he was the most non-judgmental person in the world I've
yeah,
ever met in
yeah,
my life.
yeah. He looked like oh man, he this guy here he may hurt you. He's tough.
He was the strongest man I've ever
Yeah,
known. Everybody's dad is the strongest,
yeah,
but mine, I've been in the cage. I've been around some mean people and
yeah,
strong people, but I never really experienced anything as raw strength as he had. Just that.
yeah,
But the more important to me was how he was about people. He never really judged anyone.
yeah,
He'd listen to you, and
yeah,
my kids, my two oldest kids, would definitely contest to that because they have their own way of doing things, and he
yeah,
would just listen to them and say, "Well,
yeah, yeah.
he was a funny guy, but I mean,
So
some
he would always say he always when he was at the hospital he would always make a point to say hi to my wife. By the way,
oh yeah,
she mentions it to this. She still talks about it.
yeah,
How Pat would always find be the one
yeah.
to say hi to her. You know.
Well, I was kind of wanting to see. I know you got two boys, right?
Yep. So
And
April's my wife. We've been married. I don't even know 27 years,
yeah, a
something
long
like
time.
that.
It's a
Long time.
long time.
Only
How does all your everything? And you, I'll say this really quickly. My wife, she come on board, and we were working together. Did not work.
yeah
Could not work in that particular environment together. I've
yeah.
been trying to get her more. She streams games now. That's what she
Oh,
does.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Um, but now because I'm so busy, we don't have a lot of time together, and it's a
Mhm.
struggle to
Yeah.
to find time. And when you're there, you don't want to waste it. How's that work with her?
Yeah, so whenever I started the business, let's just go there, if it wasn't for my wife April and my mom, those two I don't know I don't think we would have a Transform Academy these days if it wasn't for what they contributed. They were there every class. They took care of the folks making payments, coming in. Anybody had a question or anything. I taught classes. They ran the business for the
Yeah.
longest time. And then then we just had that boom there right before we moved to Calvert City, where I mean we couldn't hold all the students in the building anymore, and it was like, okay, we need to do something different. And I ran it by my wife, said, hey, what if I took on a business partner that would help me run this? And that's when Candace come along. She was our top student. She'd been with me the longest, and she just anyway, so that worked really well. But what that did was exactly what you're talking about. Now my wife is not there as much
Hmm.
anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's doing her career. She's taking care of a household. That kind of thing. And so yeah, so I see her about an hour of an evening. you
Yeah.
know,
That's where I'm.
we come in. But so what we do, and I can tell y'all what we do, but that doesn't mean it works for anybody else. It's just
Mhm.
we both enjoy, and you can look at my Facebook feed and see this, but we both enjoy like going to a concert.
Yeah.
Going to listen to some good music or a good comedian. Go see somebody who's the best in their field do something, and we buy tickets to that kind of thing all the time, and that's what we do. We don't have our daily, we do have a daily interaction, but it's
Yeah.
very limited. But then we take it very intentional moments to where we break away, and
Mm.
luckily, I think everybody understands just how busy I am with because I have a 9 to 5 also,
Right. Yeah.
and so I work for the United States Army and the Army Corps of Engineers, and so and I'm a manager, so I've got like 32 people or so that work for me. So that's a full time gig in itself, And
Right.
then I leave there. I don't go home. I leave there, go to the dojo. I get home 8, 9 o'clock every night. So
Yeah.
I have just that unwind with her, bed, back up the next morning. One of the things that talked with Shinzo quite a bit before I talked with him a bit when I first became a Machida instructor, I wasn't what you'd call the picture of health,
Yeah.
you know. And so he was like, you need to get a workout regimen that is consistent, that sort of thing. And so I agreed, and I came home and started. I said like, hey, I need a workout partner, So I got a workout partner, and I work out I leave the house at 5 o'clock every morning, and I go work out before I go to my job. So I said that to say my day starts before my wife is out of bed, and then we have about an hour every day
Yeah.
that we see each other, and that's it.
Very similar. Yeah, I have
So
very similar
yeah.
setup. So
But for us, we just we just make intentional moments.
yeah, yeah, definitely take advantage of the time you have.
Yeah,
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 so it goes. I've been really trying to dial back a lot on my end though too. I think at some point you have to and kind of have to give up the reins on some things, and if they have somebody that can't take off with it, then it's just not meant to be
it's
anymore.
the
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So what about your boys?
yeah. So I've got two sons, Josh and Blake. And let's see here. I'm going to get this wrong. Josh is 27. Blake's 22. It's funny as they get into their 20s, you start forgetting
Yeah,
like
they're just in
it's
their
yeah
twenties.
they're getting older now.
Yeah, they'll be in their 20s, then their 30s.
Yeah,
You don't know.
yeah. So my oldest Josh, he's married. Tristan is who he's married to, and
That's
they've got
odd. I didn't know that. My son's name is
yeah,
Tristan.
spelled different,
Yeah,
spelled
yeah,
different. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Just don't say that.
yeah. And then so Josh and Tristan have two babies right now. Piper is the oldest. She's 3, and then August is 1, and they're both just fantastic. And
Yeah,
then
that's
we've got a third on the way. It'll be here in October. So Charlotte will be here in October, and we're excited. I mean,
that's awesome.
being a granddad is like
Can't imagine.
it's like where it's
I
at.
really can't because I'm not. My oldest two. I'm not gonna probably give. I'm not gonna expect it anytime soon. So I just started having more.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
I
yeah.
got
I get
so
it.
having an 8-year-old. He's probably out there wandering around. Yeah, I tell you what though, having a little guy like that around, it's I don't get to spend as much time with him because he's very popular. He's
Yeah.
got always going to grandparents or
Oh
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But it's fun. And yeah, I use my other two as training, and now I think maybe I'll try to get this one right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I can understand that
Oh,
because I
you talk about looking up. But when you got so he's 8, and then we have an 18-year-old, my daughter Eden, and then Tristan's 25. But he looks up to those two like they just, and they don't know it. They don't even notice how
yeah,
much he does. Now he does kind of boss Tristan around a little bit,
yeah,
but yeah, he does look up some. It's a good fit.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
So
fantastic.
either of your boys get into martial arts much?
Yeah, yeah. So Josh actually is a Nidan in Shotokan Karate, and Blake is a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu.
Cool.
So yeah, they both now neither one of them are currently training.
Life.
They're at that place. I think every one of us go through that where it's like, oh, I'm trying to get a family started, trying to get a job started, that sort of thing. But yeah, they both have been martial artists. It's been really good. So
Okay. No problem. Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so we've been through quite a bit, a lot more than I thought we were going to be able to get to, and I
Yeah.
know we got some scheduling constraints, but there's not necessarily a need for a 3-hour podcast every time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure, sure.
but I do have a couple of podcast questions that I asked, or the generics,
Mhm.
and I ask everyone. So, what would you say the meaning of life is?
Oh, awesome. That would have been nice to have been able to
I,
think of that, right?
I don't ever want to give a prep.
Yeah,
It's generally the same, but for
yeah.
most people. But yeah, I'd like to hear what you.
The meaning of life. So, okay. So for me, this goes very easily, very quickly into my relationship with God. Okay, because I think that the reason I was made was to give Him praise. That's a pretty simple answer for me. Okay,
Mhm.
and so then what does that mean? So what that ends up doing is it extends into every facet of my life. I mean, being able to feed into my family, being able to love properly, love people properly. That's the reason for the care of the students. It's the
Sure.
reason that I want to be there for them and that sort of thing. I fear that well, I think it's just accurate that if it wasn't for that, then I really don't know what I would. I don't know why I would exist. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I mean, I'm at that point now. When I was younger, I couldn't have answered that question.
Yeah.
But now as I've gotten older and I've seen a lot of life and I've seen a lot of death and I've seen a lot of questions, insecurities, and just you have to stop and you have to think, well, what is this all about anyway? What are we doing?
Hmm.
What are we doing here? I've had moments. Me and Jason Hawkins have talked about this at the academy several times. It's like when you teach martial arts for so long, some days you walk in and you're like, what am I doing here? What I'm dressed up in this funny outfit and I'm going to teach people how to punch and kick. Why?
Yeah.
What do we do? And then and you'll have that moment. You'll have that 8-year-old that comes in crying every day,
Right.
and you love them.
Yeah.
That's all you do. You just love. You just show love, and
Yeah.
then, well, where did that love come from? And then you start answering those questions, and it's the next thing you know, I'm like,
Yeah.
I kind of see the big picture here, and so for me, it boils down to that,
Yeah.
and then that feeds everything,
Sure.
you know.
It's like a lot of people refer to it, and I do too. Sometimes it's just you're finding that connection,
Hmm.
whether it's with your with God or with spiritual uh, part of your life, or at the same time finding a connection with the people in your life.
Yeah.
You know, you're able to just exactly what you said. That 8-year-old who was struggling so hard.
Mhm.
Does he have the perfect punch? Does he have the perfect kick? Will that matter at the end of his life?
Mhm.
No, not necessarily. But the connection you made will always be there. And
Mhm.
and the art of the martial arts gives us that ability to give something to receive that connection.
Mhm.
You got to have something out there to draw someone, and that draw brings them in, and then you get the connection.
Yeah.
That's always kind of seems to be the general sensation, and for me, connecting with people, and that's why I do this
Yeah.
is part of it. So that being said, are you happy?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I always were. I had
Uh,
one very negative.
really, really.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
but
I
so
mean,
far everybody's pretty happy.
I think everybody has a chance to have a bad day.
Sure.
Everybody has a chance to have bad moments,
Yeah.
right? Whatever. But yeah, yeah, I feel guilty. I've got it so
Yeah,
good.
that's awesome. I'm glad
You
to
know what I
hear
mean?
that. Yeah.
I mean, and I don't mean I don't have a lot of money. I really don't. I
Yeah.
don't. I've got an amazing wife, amazing kids, amazing grandkids, amazing daughter-in-law,
Yeah.
amazing mom, sisters. Okay, the family, cousins. I've got
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I've got all these people that are just fantastic, business partners, best friends, um, acquaintances. You know
Yeah.
what I mean. I've got this interconnection of people that makes every day special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then how in the world can I not be happy with that? You
Right.
know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, if I was all alone by myself on an island, I might be a little bit unhappy. But
Sure.
but it's
Well, it
just
goes to that connection of people.
yeah, it's just so many amazing people in my life every day.
Yeah.
Coworkers, people I work with, people I'm
Mm.
friends. I mean, it's just I could have sat here for the whole podcast and
And just
talked
talk
about
about them.
people,
Yeah.
just how these people. Man, there's another book out there. I wrote a book before, by the way, and I
I
mean,
seen yeah, I seen that. What's the name of that book?
yeah, it's Karate Essentials is
Yeah,
the name
Karate
of it. Yeah,
Central's
you
right.
can search it on Amazon
Yeah.
and find it
It's
there. But
still in print then.
yep,
You
yep,
can
you can get it on there. Sure can. I always tell everybody a charge. I think what are they? 10.99 these days. I think is what it is on Amazon. I'm like, look, if you'll buy the book, I'll buy you a Coke.
Mm.
It's just-
Yeah.
it's gonna cover how much royalties I get off that book.
Yeah.
but anyway,
Yeah.
I just try to sell more like that. So
Well, you're gonna go upside down as expensive as Coke's
and
getting.
yeah, no kidding. It's not
Yeah.
gonna be long. I'll be yeah,
Yeah.
upside down for sure.
Cool.
Mm.
Man, it's been great. I am excited that you came in. It's been in today's world, getting those connections as far as scheduling is hard,
It's
and
hard.
it's hard
Yeah.
to do. I've been fortunate just recently that a lot of those people that I've been reaching out to have been just coming on board, and we're hoping to continue growing this thing. And yeah, I think we should definitely try to do this again. Maybe bring
Yeah.
some students in, do it as a
Sure.
group,
Sure. Do that.
or the family, however you like, just get a
Yeah.
perspective. It's really weird when you get to perspective, and sometimes people find out things they don't even know.
Yeah.
When two people are asked the same question that do the same thing, even as it together, sometimes they'll be like, like,
Yeah.
what is that really what you thought that was?
Yeah.
It's really fun to do that sometimes and get that
Yeah.
different perspective from
Yeah.
how people
Well,
think.
and there's just talking. I mean, there's so many things about this karate.
Oh man.
I could sit here and talk for a couple hours probably
At
on just
least,
you
I
know.
mean, and there's things that I generally just jot down notes because there's little things that I catch and I
Yeah.
want to go back to. And there was so much of those with you
Mhm.
because we've known each other for so long, and we've been doing this in the same area, so we have a lot of probably similar. We never got into the fighting, the actual cage fights that you and I were involved
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
and you even came and did some of the announcing of some of those
Yeah.
shows and some of the
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Were you the announcer at Ivy's fight that I had at
I
Harris?
was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just on not long ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I rented a tuxedo, and we
Yeah.
got up. Is it Metropolis, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the casino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in that, and I think we had Matt Hamill
Yeah, we
for that show.
did. That was a big show that it really turned out well, but I lost so much money.
Yeah.
I can remember it's one of those things where you're walking through a crowd. I seen a movie once that reminded me of it. And I still have this sensation because I'll be walking through a group of people that I done something with like that. Know the negative, the really bad negative that's gone on. Like, oh, I just lost $10,000. I'm gonna shut this whole thing down. All these people are gonna be disappointed tomorrow when they find out that we're not gonna. But they're all like, yeah. They're like, and
That
they're
was
like,
great.
you're like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I can't breathe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was a really good show. But yeah, those are experiences in your life that help
Yeah.
mold who you are. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Back in the day, training over at the gym, training with Danny all the time and
Mhm.
just all the guys and
Yeah.
stuff. That was a lot of fun. Fond memories.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many days I went into work and I'd have
Yeah.
TV interviews I was going to do and I'd have an eye swell shut.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
We went really hard,
Yeah.
and and those guys have been in here. We did what's called a pod fight.
Yeah.
Danny and a couple other guys in, and we've done that twice. And
What exactly happened down there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I talked to him and blah, blah, blah. He asked about you guys and da-da-da-da-da, more questions, blah, blah, blah.